Hey besties, welcome to my knitting podcast. I have so much to talk about today. I've got a load of projects on at the moment and they're all in different stages of me having a million opinions about them. So I need to get it out of here, through here, to you. That's what's going to happen today. We're going to switch things around a little bit and talk about my works in progress before we move on to my finished object, because my first work in progress is actually by the sponsor of today's video, which is Hooks and Needles. Hooks and Needles is a subscription box of either knitting or crochet or amigurumi projects. The box comes with a magazine containing 3 patterns of different skill levels and all the supplies you need to create the patterns, as well as links to video tutorials. I found Hooks and Needles a great way to hone my knitting skills, and a previous box actually taught me how to do intricate colour work. I ended up getting that knit away as a gift, so not only did I get to learn how to do colour work, but I got to make a handmade present for someone. You can also pause your subscription if a monthly box is too frequent for you, and it would make a really good Christmas gift. Hooks and Needles are also rolling out special discounted bundles for Black Friday and for Christmas. So this month's box contains 3 patterns, as well as these cute wooden care labels, metal hardware for if you decide to choose the pattern to make a bag, and 3 bowls of their Sunset Hues yarn, which is 50% cotton and 50% wool and made in Portugal. If you're interested in trying Hooks and Needles for yourself or as a gift, you can use my code Natasha20, which gets you 20% off your first box. So this is my whip from this month's box. I've decided to go for the scarf pattern, which, although it's the beginner pattern, I'm still learning new techniques from. This is about maybe an hour's worth of work, and as you can see, it's got really cute hole details. Let me show you. So this is what the scarf is meant to look like once it's finished. So you end up using all 3 balls of the yarn to create this, and the techniques that I've learned that have been new to me are the way of doing the increases in this pattern are to knit through the front loop and then knit through the back loop of a stitch instead of doing make one right or make one left increase, which I actually kind of prefer, honestly. I might take that further into my future knitting plans, and I really like the type of border that it creates here. There's also, I don't even know what kind of stitch pattern you would call it, but it involves yarning over and slip stitches to create these little holes here. I'm using 3.5mm needles as suggested in the pattern, and what I really appreciate is these are the needles that came in a previous box and they didn't duplicate, giving me more of the same needles in this box. And I'm very grateful that the boxes think about not giving you excess materials that you don't need. This yarn is an absolute joy to work with. I thought that it being 50% cotton, 50% wool, it would potentially be quite splitty, as that's been my previous experience with that kind of blend of yarn, and it's just not at all. It feels like 100% wool. It feels super soft, and I'm really enjoying this knitting process. For the rest of the pattern, you just increase it the same way until it just becomes a very big triangle. So it's going to get pretty mindless as soon as I manage to commit this holy part to memory. And yeah, this has been a very good travel project for me. I also really prefer reading a pattern from a magazine and not from my phone as well, because it means I can watch YouTube videos on my phone. Work in progress number 2 is my mixed Rib Cami from Handmade by Florence. This is where I'm up to. This is the completed back panel. This is actually the outside of it here. And the modification that I'm making to this pattern is not doing the twisted rib because I'm bad at it. This used up about half of 1 ball of wool. I'm knitting this in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the shade Red Currant. I loved this colour when I started working with it, and I just grow to love it more and more. I'm very excited to finish this. Although I will say that this has been a very slow process for me because, well, initially I thought it was the mixture of the ribbed stitches, the cotton yarn and the 3mm needles that was making it hurt my hands so quickly. But having started that Hooks and Needles project and also doing that with small needles and a woolen cotton blend, I think it's actually just the rib. I think my hands don't like doing rib stitches. So I'm only really taking this about half an hour at a time, which is why I haven't got so far with it. I do have one small concern, and it's that the next instruction in the pattern is to pick up stitches for the left shoulder, but I don't know where to do that. I would assume it would be like here, right? Like where I put these stitches on hold, but then why would the pattern tell me to put them on hold just to pick them straight back up again? And I realised I actually don't know what the back of this pattern looks like. I've only ever seen it from the front. So I'm gonna have to do some research, or maybe if you've knitted this, you can tell me, where am I picking up my stitches for my left shoulder, please? Because doing it here would be weird. This is definitely the bottom. So I'm assuming it's where I've just put the stitches on hold. But yeah, that's gonna need some further research. This is definitely a slow and steady project, but that's fine by me. I do need to let myself know that not everything needs to be done in 5 days. My next work in progress is Beanie No. 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I got beef, I've got things to say about this pattern. This is my sorry state of where I'm up to. I've done some weird ass 3 needle with an interchangeable needle situation. I'm knitting this in Drops Air in the colour blue. Love this yarn, love this colour. Don't love the pattern so much. I've had a few issues with it already, and I'm going to tell you all about them. So I've knitted I think this is my 4th pattern from My Favorite Things Knitwear, and the other 3 have been faultless, 0 complaints, but this beanie has kind of gone wrong. So you were meant to start off casting off this beanie with a tubular cast on, and the pattern links you to a YouTube video that is very in-depth. I've never done a tubular cast on before. It took me a few times to get it. It was really frustrating. It was really long. It took me about an hour to do and finally figure out. And after I started knitting and then read the Ravelry notes, the beanie is knit in 1x1 rib, but this tubular cast on that I poured my blood, sweat and tears in is for 2x2 rib. So I'm gonna need to frog this because it's the wrong type of rib, which is just really frustrating. I have since looked further into people's notes on Ravelry, and a lot of people are saying the same thing and linking their own videos saying do it this way, not the way in the pattern. So I'm going to start again and do it with a 1x1 tubular cast on. I also, initially when I wanted to start this project, I took it with me while I was commuting, but the project didn't say that you needed a crochet hook, which you did need to follow that tubular cast on video. So I was put off from starting this because of my lack of the correct supplies. And then when I did get the correct supplies, I still need to frog this. Also, from looking through Ravelry, I noticed that a lot of people were saying that this isn't actually knit in fisherman's rib, it's knit in either brioche stitch or half brioche stitch. And they have linked some useful tutorials to how to do that specific stitch. So yeah, altogether I'm more confused than I'd want to be when paying for and following a pattern. I will persevere. I won't persevere right now because this situation is just not working for me. I'm struggling to do magic loop. I tried this 3 needle double pointed needle whatever sort of situation. I don't want to have to knit a whole hat like this, so I'm gonna buy some short cables, some 40cm cables for my interchangeable needles. These are the Drops Pro Classic interchangeable needle set, and someone in a comment in one of my other videos told me that the Knit Pro cables I think are compatible with these needles. I'll have to go back to that comment and see exactly which needles I can buy, but I can buy a 40cm cable for these needles, and I will, because I'm not, whatever this is, I'm not interested. So much to think about, much to do, much to learn. I will persevere because I want this hat and I love this yarn. To ease my hat woes, making that beanie, I decided to start on another hat pattern. The pattern designer actually reached out to me on Instagram and said that they watched my videos and they would like to send me their pattern while it was still in testing. The pattern is out now, but I did get this pattern for free, which I'm very grateful for and I've really been enjoying following. The designer is called Prinsessen, and this is their first pattern. It's called the Vogue Bonnet, and this is what I have so far. So if you've watched my sunset sweater project vlog, you might have seen this yarn before. This is mystery charity shop yarn. I've got no idea what it is. It's really enjoyable to knit with. I have a feeling it might be mohair, but it could possibly be a really nice acrylic. I'm very unsure. I think it's going to be a little bit scratchy, but hopefully because it's going to sit on top of my hair, it won't affect me at all. I am using 4mm needles. I think the pattern suggests 5.5mm, but I did some gauge swatches and 4mm is what I had to use to meet gauge. It looks like not much of anything now, but I think that with only a few hours, I will have completed the whole thing. It's been very enjoyable to follow the pattern. It's very well laid out, like row by row, and I'm really excited to try a bonnet. I hope a bonnet suits me. I've never tried one before, but I guess there's one way to find out. I think this is actually the back of the bonnet here. So this is going to be the back of my head, and I'm going to knit in this semicircle until it's big enough to cover my whole head. And I think the colour is going to match my hair colour quite well. I think it's going to be really cute for winter. I also really appreciate that this pattern has diagrams as well as just writing out the instructions, so you know exactly where you're picking up stitches. The last work in progress that I have to share with you is actually my current sewing project. So I am making a leather handbag. I got sent this kit from Babylon Leather, and I did an unboxing before I'd started in my last knitting podcast, and I thought I would have the whole bag here ready to show you, but I've been pretty busy and I didn't want to rush this because I'm really enjoying the process. So the kit comes with everything that you need to create the bag, and the website has loads of different really nice bag designs as well. They did give me a discount code that I'll put in the description if you want to buy one of the kits for yourself. It's really, really nice, high quality leather, and this is what I've done so far. I have sewn the front panel and the back panel together, and I'm currently in the process of sewing at the bottom to the bag. So it's gonna eventually sort of sit like that with a lot of other bells and whistles attached to it. I'll insert a photo of what all the pieces look like because I currently have them all just splayed out on my floor, and it'd be kind of impossible to show you by holding them up. I've really been enjoying doing this. The stitching takes a long while because it's reinforced, so the bag is strong, and so you have to go over each stitch multiple times. Because all the holes are already punctured in a straight line, there's very few mistakes that you can make, and sometimes I end up knitting for like many hours in an evening, and I really appreciate having something else to do that gives my wrists a break from the repetitive motions of knitting, but still gives me that same sort of like meditative, rhythmic, mindless task to do. And I'm finding it really satisfying watching the finished bag start to take shape. Is that really all my whips? I think, well, that's more than enough, isn't it? See, because I don't have like a sweater that I'm currently half finished, I feel like I'm missing something, but I do have another sweater to share you too, I guess. One's kind of a sweater. I'll show you my finished objects now. Yeah, when I said sweater, I wasn't joking. I know I just made an entire sweater in 5 days, but I did it again. This is a self-drafted scrap yarn sweater. So all of this is stash yarn. I really just wanted to make the most of all the little scraps that I had acquired and try and whittle it down and make it into something that I would get some use out of. So this is my sweater. This was my first self-drafted pattern, and I am so happy with how it's come out. It actually only finished drying today, and I've been wearing it all morning. It's not itchy, it fits well, the sleeves aren't too long. I made them really short with the idea that they'll stretch a lot with blocking, and they're the perfect bracelet length where if you have to do the washing up, the sleeves don't get in the way. Which I find with most of the sweaters that I own, they do, which is great. I filmed the entire process of making this and the process of making my first self-drafted sweater, talking you through all the scrap yarns that I used, because some of them are pretty sentimental, so that video should be live pretty soon and I'll save the details for then. But yeah, there she is. I feel like with this I really can't call myself a beginner knitter anymore if I can make myself a sweater completely from scratch without following a pattern, and I'm really proud of myself. And finally, one more finished object. The saga of Blouse #1 has come to an end. She is done. This has been on my needles for a very long time. It's been a background project for a while, and I had a massive crisis of faith in my last knitting podcast because I started to really dislike the colours. Funnily enough, now that it's finished, I don't mind the colours as much. This pattern was really easy to follow, really good. The only modification that I made to this pattern is to knit the sleeves with 4mm needles instead of 5mm, which I did because I don't yet have like a short cable for my 5mm needles, and I have like 40cm 4mm circular needles, and yeah, like as I mentioned before, magic loop is not my forte. Also, the body is knitted in 4mm needles, so I figured it wouldn't make much difference if I just knitted the sleeves with the same ones. So I think the sleeves are probably a bit thinner than they would potentially be if I'd followed the pattern to the letter, but as the pattern dictates the sleeve length by not number of rows but by number of centimeters, the length wasn't affected by it. I knitted this with Rico Creative Cotton Camouflage in the shade #1, and I then almost ran out of it because it was a big 250g bowl. So for the sleeves I used Rico Baby Cotton DK. It was another 50/50 cotton acrylic blend. I think the shade is called Patina, which creates those teal parts down at the bottom of the sleeves. I think the pattern may be written with wool yarn in mind because this cotton acrylic didn't stretch much at all with blocking, and it is pretty cropped, and the sleeves are bracelet length as well. And in the pattern photo, the sleeve hits like middle of the hand. In my experience with other of my favourite things knitwear, top and sweater patterns, the sleeves have never been like cropped or short, or the body either. So something to note if you want to make this exact pattern in a cotton, make sure you're happy with the sleeve length and the body length. I really enjoy the fit now that I've finished the sleeves. I think the weight of the sleeves makes the neckline sit better. It sort of pulls it and makes it more of a wide boat neck. When I posted about this on my Instagram before I'd done the sleeves and when I was right in the middle of my crisis, I had quite a few comments saying that I should leave it short sleeves, and people liked the way that that looked. But I have to say that now that the sleeves are done, especially with the little flare at the bottom of the sleeves, I really enjoy the fit of it the most in its current state. The colours are kind of growing on me because the fit looks so nice. I still do have my navy dye that I bought with the intention of dyeing this into a colour that matches my colour scheme, but I think I do want to try wearing this out for a full day at least once and seeing how I feel about it, because I feel like it is just objectively pretty, and these colours in this yarn is probably someone else's like dream top. It's just not mine. So I want to see if I can give it a go. Maybe like it's something that I can incorporate and like learn how to style, and I could make it into a bit of a challenge. And then if that doesn't work, then I'm gonna make a big navy blue soup to add this to. But yeah, I learned a lot with this project in terms of yarn choice. The pattern, like no complaints, easy to follow, classic my favourite things knitwear apart from that beanie. It was just a little bit shorter than I'd expected. Oh, I should also say, like, I'm very average height, average arm length and whatever. Most things don't tend to run too short on me. But this yarn was something that I bought in April when I was still very new to yarn buying. I thought I was a summer instead of an autumn colour palette. I thought that these were my colours. And I also was at the beginning of my not wearing only neutrals phase. So I just saw like some pretty pastel colours and ran with it. But in reality, something can be pretty and not part of my fashion sense, and that's okay. Like, yarn can be pretty and I don't have to own it. I can just look at it and appreciate it for what it is. And I think that is especially true for maybe all self-striping yarns for me, and all variegated yarns. I think they're gorgeous. They look especially gorgeous like in the skein, but in reality those types of garments don't fit into my fashion sense and my fashion choices. And if I were to see like a knitted piece on the high street in like a variegated yarn or a striped yarn, I wouldn't buy it. So why am I buying the yarn to create tops and pieces that I wouldn't wear if they were in their finished form? So a bit of a 40-hour trial by fire to make me a more mindful consumer, but I'm glad that I had that realization now and it can inform my future yarn purchasing. I also, why did I buy 50% acrylic? I don't have that many like spicy hot takes about knitting and the knitting community and yarn, but acrylic yarn where it's not needed drives me up the wall. Like, I understand like sock yarn, yes, put that 20% nylon, put that 20% polyamide. I understand adding a bit of synthetic yarn to make the yarn better, but like there's nothing wrong with 100% cotton. Why does this need to be 50% acrylic? Acrylic of all synthetic fibers, like I find acrylic to be really sweaty. I try my best to not buy like acrylic pieces on the high street. So why am I buying acrylic yarn, girl? Like, time and place, sure. Like if you're making a baby garment that needs to be machine washable, sure. But for me, for this, for right now, no girl, buy that natural fibre. But I will in future, so I'm glad I know it now. Wish me luck with the dyeing process if I do end up doing it. I'm a bit scared that it's gonna maybe ruin the garment, but if I don't wear it, that is a risk that I'm willing to take. It will just hurt if it goes wrong. But I guess if it doesn't go well, then I can always just dye it black over the navy and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I have no new yarn acquisitions to share with you, so this is the end of the video. Please let me know what you're knitting. Thank you so much to Hooks and Needles for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!